Mechanical terms, Donna. I use sprinting a lot to do velocity, acceleration. I use rugby to talk about momentum for collisions and things like that. But you can use tennis for movement. You can use run up to kick a football for movement. They all work. So no, not any specific sports for specific terms. The only one you have to do is impulse is always based on sprinting down a track. Impulse is always about horizontal forces sprinting down the track, never the start, never high jumping or anything else. Does that make sense? Okay, we're going to hit the psychology and just look at so much what I'm to do. Yeah, okay, so we can the right sort of amount of time. Yeah, Helen, the simplistic notion was, and I remember the question quite well. It wasn't me that wrote it, so I can say what I want. It asked for the majority of energy being produced in the lactic acid system, but essentially there wasn't enough marks. And in a gymnastics routine, the decision was that part of that must involve maximum exertion of the muscles, and therefore maximum force of contraction, and therefore maximum rapid supply of resynthesized ATP, and therefore the ATP-PC system must have been used as well. Yeah, it wasn't a nice question from a teacher's point of view, Helen. Can I just say that? I didn't write it, not me. But yeah, that was why. You could have got, I do believe, you could have got 4 marks through lactic acid system answer. But I'm not going to want to be quoted on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let's do some trick cycling. Sorry, psychology. So psychology, we've had, again, the compulsory questions, and they're always, again, in 2 parts. And they're always theory and ways to control it. So social facilitation and ways to control the effects of an audience. Cohesion and ways to stop cohesion breaking down through faulty processes. Arousal and control of arousal somatically. Aggression and how to increase assertion. Self-efficacy and strategies to reduce self-efficacy. Sorry, increase self-efficacy. So they've all got similar sorts of prognosis, is that the right word? Diagnosis. Okay, so while we're here, again, a couple of documents I've put into your Dropbox again. There is a Word document on self-efficacy, because I thought self-efficacy would come up in the exam, so I wrote it, I think, about a year ago and posted it on Subject Support's blog page, and it did come up in the exam. Well done, me. Sorry, it's no good for you at the moment, but that was quite good. And there's also a PowerPoint presentation on personality, because personality is a potential for 2015, methinks. So that's in the materials as well. So a thing on self-efficacy, and a PowerPoint on personality, Hollander's model, essentially. Okay. So we're on to the same sort of idea of taking the 14 points in this particular question and thinking we can reduce this down to 8 to 10 points. Which bits do we leave out? Well, for example, point 1, we would call it instinct theory rather than a trait theory. That aggression is innate, and we use those sort of words. I'm not sure I'd ever mention point 4. I'd probably use the word catharsis. I'd use frustration aggression hypothesis, etc., etc. Okay, so it's social learning. Aggression is learned by observing others. Aggressive cue theory, there needs to be some sort of aggressive or desirable cue around to make it work. So that sort of idea. This one I put in because I think you might struggle, because there's 4 different theories, you might struggle to reduce that down to 8 things. You might want to get that down to about 10. 2 or 3 for each one seems to be the best way of doing it. So maybe a couple of things missing from instinct, and maybe a couple of things missing from frustration aggression theory. Okay. Moving on, another potential area that we might. Oh, by the way, I've also, again, I've stuck into the Dropbox a PowerPoint and a Word document on aggression. basically the same ideas. They're the sort of things I put onto the subject support blog because I thought they'd be coming up in the exam, and they did 2 years ago. Social facilitation compulsory questions, just reducing that down to 8 to 10 points rather than being 12 points. Relatively simple. Maybe you might struggle with points 5 and 6. Most people tend to leave out point 2 for some reason. I think points 9 and 10 are opposites. So once you've got one in, you should have the other one dead easy. But it's that sort of idea. We cut them down, cut down to what's required all the time. So just a thought while we're here, I'm thinking of the 2015 paper. Personality and personality testing might come up as a 14-mark question, but the other one that seems to be more applicable in my head would be attributions and attribution retraining as a possible compulsory question. So details of Weiner's model and how appropriate it is, and self-serving bias and learned helplessness all being mentioned in that, and then how can you reduce the possibility of learned helplessness through attribution retraining. That might work as a compulsory question for next year. Just some thoughts. In terms of the 7-mark questions, slightly less topic areas, 25 topic areas rather than the 30 found in physiology. Again, you're going to find 3 and 4-mark questions, and they tend to be quite specific. So we've had what do you understand by the phrase self-serving bias? We've had the idea of what do you understand by the phrase persuasive communication to change attitudes? What's the idea of approach behavior? Factors affecting optimal arousal from inverted U. So you could see, just change it round, and why not a question about learned helplessness from attributions? Why not a question about cognitive dissonance from attitudes? Why not a question about avoidance behaviors from achievement motivation? And factors affecting optimal arousal from, for example, catastrophe theory might work. Oh, Helen, a really good question. Thank you for that. If students answer all the questions, how is it marked? If they answered every question, they are then handicapping themselves in terms of time. They will struggle badly for time. So all the examiners are told to do is to mark everything and award the highest marks. But don't forget it's whole questions. So if it was question 2 and 3 and 4, then questions 2 and 3 and 4 are marked, and then the lowest marks, so let's say there's only 2 marks given for question 4, that's ignored. And the expectation from the exam board is they've handicapped themselves because they won't have time to complete the paper. They really will struggle to complete the paper. My revision suggestion, Helen, is the way I deal with this, is if you answer all the questions, you're going to fail. It's not a good sign, it's a bad sign. It's a sign of, what's the word, not intending, not pretending. What's the right term? Possible failure. There's a word for that, I can't think what it is. Okay. Psychology 7-mark questions, really hard to predict topics. Virtually every topic area has been covered. If you look at a sort of a grid that covers or tries to cover what's been done, that PHED3 analysis of past paper that's in the Dropbox, if you look at that, I think now after the 2014 paper that you'll have to add to that, because I haven't done it yet. Everything's been done. Arousal and anxiety seems to come up every year. It underpins nearly everything. I think there are some difficult topics that students find difficult to answer on leadership and cohesion. I think they're just a bit overgeneralized. Again, linked into this slide, if you're making notes, I've included some arousal worksheets with sort of, what's the right word, interactive worksheets. So the students have to answer the questions as they go through the worksheet. So that's in the Dropbox as well. And there's a movement in the exam team to insist upon accurate phrasing of certain key terms like task persistence, and